everyone, it's Chris over at Chris's Booking It. I'm back with another video. Why do I sound like a fucking podcaster? Well, that's upsetting. Hey everyone, it's Chris from Chris's Booking It. If it looks exactly the same as my last video, that's because I'm filming it 5 minutes later. Today I have another book review for you, and that is for Any Man by Amber Tamblyn. It is a very short book, and it is a very impactful book. I read this for the book club over on Jordaline's Patreon. Hello. We have a special guest. It's Quentin. Say hi. Hi. He's like, fuck you, lady. Would you like to guest star? Is there anything that you would like to say about Any Man? Okay, so Any Man, it is by Amber Tamblyn. You might know her as an actress. She was in Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants and Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants 2. She was also in Joan of Arcadia. She's been in lots of other things that I can't remember now. I believe this was her debut novel, and I read this for Jordaline's book club over on Patreon. There were a lot of mixed feelings amongst the people that read this book. I gave it 5 stars. It is currently at the top of the list for the best books I've read all year. Loved it so much, I've actually already reread it. This book follows a group of men who all have one thing in common. They were all sexually assaulted by a violent rapist who goes by the name of Maud. Nobody seems to know anything about her. The police can find no leads, nothing on this woman. They try for years and years to no avail, and she remains at large. This book is not my usual. It blends poetry and prose. Do you mind? Klaus, no more. This book does blend poetry and prose. I am not a poetry person. I didn't know how this was gonna go. As it turns out, I fucking loved it. The way she incorporated... Would you knock it off, please? The way she incorporated the poetry along with the prose, I think was really well done. This is a very emotional book. It's not one that I would recommend lightly, as it does cover the topic of rape and sexual assault. It also gives you a peek into the mindset of these victims and the things that they go through as they try and come to terms with what happened to them and figure out where they go from here. How do they go on with their lives when something so life-altering and in some cases life-ending happens to them? You see a lot of different things showcased, a lot of different coping mechanisms. We have a character in here who uses humor to cope. He kind of makes jokes about it and kind of uses comedy. He's a comedian. He uses comedy to kind of process and make sense of what happened to him. We have a character who is actually the first character that we meet, Donald, and he struggles a lot. He's very depressed. He cannot seem to move forward with his life. And then something changes, a switch flips, and he becomes this advocate and uses this horrible thing that he went through to try and help others. Another major character we follow is Jamar, and his story is heartbreaking. He is a black man. You get kind of a look as to how differently he is treated from Donald or our comedian Pear. And one thing I love about this book is that it doesn't just give us like one perfect quote-unquote victim. Because there are no perfect victims. We have a character in here. He's a gay libertarian. He is a writer and journalist and is very inflammatory and abrasive. And he is, by all accounts, not the greatest person, but you still end up feeling for him. And I think that's by design. And I think it kind of shows that side of you can't really pick and choose when it comes to victims of rape, because not everybody is going to be this perfect victim. You know, bad things happen to good people, and bad things still happen to not so great people, and nobody deserves to have this kind of a violent crime committed against them. I think the way that that message is put forward in this is very well done. This also features a character who was just a child when he was assaulted by Maud, and it changed the trajectory of his life. He ended up in prison, and a lot of the issues that he had could be traced back to that assault. This book is very heavy. It's a very difficult read. It's a good read, but it's very difficult, and I don't blame anyone for not being able to get through it or finding it too difficult to pick up. It's very heavy, and it's such a short book. It's only 272 pages, and it really packs a punch. I cried several times throughout the book myself, And I'm not talking just like a little tear here and there, like actual crying. I actually do want to go back and tab this book. I don't make it a habit to tab my books very often. There's very few books that I really feel the need to tab, and this is one of them. I mean, there's just so many moments. I mean, you will cry, you will get angry. This book also showcases how the handling of rape and rape victims by the police, and how ineffectual and how a lot of victims are not taken seriously or not believed. It also has some very real depictions of media and social media and all the victim blaming that happens, and how this kind of violent crime is either sensationalized or completely ignored and overlooked. It also kind of subtly tackles transphobia and the attitude that a lot of society has about trans victims of sexual violence, and how they are either ignored or it's made into this big joke or they're not believed, and just how damaging that is. Another thing that I loved is this book, every character has such a unique voice, a unique perspective. They come from all different walks of life. I mean, no two victims are the same, and I think that is kind of the point of the book. This could happen to any man, which, you know, the title, Any Man. You know, you have Donald, who is in his 40s, he's married, has 2 kids, and works as an English teacher. And then you have Pear, who's in his 60s, he's been married and divorced a bunch of times, and he's kind of a failed comedian. You have Jamar, who's in his 30s, he's a black man, he's very athletic, and he actually meets Maud on a dating website, and that's how she kind of targets him. You have Ezra, who is in prison, and you have Sebastian, who is this gay libertarian journalist type of guy. And then you have Michael, who is a trans man. There are so many quotes that I want to write down, that I want to remember. I mean, honestly, there are a few quotes that I would not mind getting tattooed. There are so many profound and impactful quotes throughout this book, and you really feel for these characters and get attached to these characters, especially in the case of Donald. Donald is the character that resonated the most with me. We start the book directly after he's just been assaulted. I believe in the book it says, I wasn't left for dead, I was left for living. That's really how he saw himself. And I think the part that hit the hardest for me, that got me the most, was watching all of these characters, but Donald in particular, go from broken and hurting and having this horrible thing happen to him, and then instead of following his first instinct, which was to just give up and crawl into a hole and never come out, which is completely understandable given what he went through, he makes the choice to go on and finds a way to put something positive back into the world after experiencing something so horrible. And it's that growth that I think really that impacted me the most. This book is just a lot, and it's hard. It's so hard, but it's so good, and it just makes you feel so many things, and that's why I gave it 5 stars. Again, I can't recommend this lightly, but if you are able to handle books with this kind of subject material that is going to put you in the shoes of these victims, I would definitely recommend it because it is incredible. All right, that wraps up my review. I think I've said all that needs to be said. I could say so much more. Oh my God, it's been 30 minutes since I started talking, and there's so much more that I could say about this book. I want to read it for a 3rd time, and honestly, I might do that because it is so raw and it is so difficult and heavy, but it is so incredibly beautiful. And I honestly commend Amber Tamblyn for accomplishing so much in such a short book. All right, that is it for me. If you like this video and want to see more from me, please like and subscribe. If you have read Any Man or you're interested in it, go ahead and comment down below, or comment if there are any other books that you would like to see me review. All right, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in another one.